Yavapai Broadcasting and the City of Cottonwood proudly present Inside Cottonwood, an inside look at the decisions and issues of the City of Cottonwood. Brought to you by Arizona Smile Designers.
Welcome. I'm Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood, and I'll be your host today for Inside Cottonwood. Today we're going to be having a little bit of information as it pertains to transportation and transportation systems throughout the Verde Valley, and especially in Cottonwood area. How these systems work and kind of a history as to where we've come from and where we're headed to. Hopefully a little bit more information as to where we're headed in the future. With me today, I'm pleased to have with me Cottonwood Transportation Manager Bruce Morrow. And Bruce has actually been with us now for just about a little bit over a year now. And so you've now gone through 2 summers. You're from Minnesota, and so from Minnesota there's quite a change from that northern climate directly down here to this desert heat, and of course they always say it's a dry heat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so how are you acclimatizing yourself?
Oh, I'm finding it's very nice here, really. Right now it just reminds me of home more than anything else because the humidity's higher and everything. But
Right.
but I really like it. I like the area and I like living here. The dry climate actually is better for my joint problems, and there are really a lot of things to do around Cottonwood, Sedona, and the Verde Valley that, frankly, when I looked it up on the map, I said, "Oh my goodness, that's the middle of the desert."
That's right.
So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
So we're high desert, but we have this nice river running through, and a river running through it, and it's a beautiful area. Cottonwood is really incredibly beautiful, and this is one of the reasons why over 23 years ago I moved my family here, and so it's been a great time frame and for all my family growing up. Tell us a little bit about your background and your history in transportation, Bruce.
Well, I think I'm like a lot of kids. When I grew up, I saw city buses around, and I thought, it'd be really cool to drive one of those. Well, it took quite a while to get there, but in 2004, I had an opportunity to actually hop on a city bus and drive it. Worked with a company called Laidlaw Transit at the time. They got bought out by a much larger company called First Transit. They're a multinational organization based in Scotland. And so I got to drive city routes. I drove demand response, which is basically somebody calls and says, "I want a ride." It's very similar to a taxi service, except you usually have 4, 5, 6 people on the bus at the same time, all going different places. Then I moved into fixed route, and that which was a little different.
Right.
We got to meet a different class of people in the fixed route than we had in our demand response. Moved into operations management when we won the contract with the University of Minnesota, and from there I moved into a general manager position in Savannah, Georgia. That was a new contract for First Transit. I got to open that contract up for them, and then from there took a little hiatus in my transit career, worked for a security company, filling and maintaining ATM machines. It's an exciting business, very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. And then I got back into transit when I came out here.
Right.
And I've not looked back. I've enjoyed it. It's a fun job.
You also have a master's degree.
I do have a master's degree in business administration.
Okay.
And one of the fun things about it is that even though it's business administration, it does cover a lot of other areas. So I look at it as, yeah, okay, I got this, now let's move on. So one of the things that I did just recently is I took a certification test for certified public transit manager.
Good.
And I just got notification this morning. I passed.
Well, congratulations, Bruce.
So now I'm a newly certified manager.
That's awesome. That's good news. And I know that with the certification levels that the city tries to aspire to at the different educational parameters, if you will, that's one of the things that's definitely something that we aspire to, and we'd like to have our people do the same thing. And so it's good to continue on with education as you progress through your, I think through your profession. It's one of the neat things. I know that fire department officials, police officer officials, everybody at this point in time seems to be, they all seek certification levels. So this is kind of a good thing for Cottonwood to have along with you. So we're proud to have you on board with us now for over a year. Congratulations on that also, on getting a year under your belt here. Now, I think that as we move through this today, we talked about the future. What do you see as the most important direction or emphasis or issues with transportation involving Cottonwood and the Verde Valley over the next 5 to 10 years?
A lot of the major issues are like everywhere else in the country. Funding is a very critical issue. We get the bulk of our funds through a grant from ADOT or through the Federal Transit Administration, and then there are local match funds that have to be applied to that. A lot of people take the bus because of reasons pretty much the same way. Economically, they can't afford to buy the gas.
Right.
They may have lost insurance on their car. The car may be totaled, might have lost their license. So there's a lot of reasons for people to take transit. What we're trying to do in the Verde Valley is work with the other transit providers, whether it be the taxi companies, private transportation providers, the folks all around the Verde Valley, including the Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition, to provide a way for people anywhere in the Verde Valley to get to the services that they need. It's going to take some work to try and coordinate 15 different organizations that are providing transit in the valley.
Right.
But we have a pretty good core group of people that are very much interested in seeing this happen. It will be better for everybody in the valley to be able to get to needed services. So that's kind of where we're headed.
Well, and I think that that's kind of the issue here also, with NACOG, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments, and Jason Kelly and his position, and his direction at that point also is to try to get everyone together to try to participate as much as possible, maybe eliminate some of the extraneous cost and build a program that's more centralized as well as more efficient. And efficiency is one of the biggest aspects of a transportation system. And we know that, especially as you write grants, I write grants, and that's one of the things that the federal government is definitely interested in, as well as the state when you look at transportation. ADOT, the Arizona Department of Transportation, always looks for efficiencies. And when they go over our grant applications, sometimes over the last 2 years, they've been somewhat surprised, and which is a good thing. They've been surprised in the positive way because we are so efficient and we're running services at a better cost level. And thanks to you also and your expertise, even with your business background, I think that that's one of the issues that we see here, which is a valuable or a value to our service and our system here. I know that also as we explain the aspects of what they call a Section 5311 grant to our viewers, it's really it's kind of a nebulous thing. It can go on and on. I think the main thing that people need to understand is that we have stakeholders. Can you tell us who those stakeholders are that are involved in our transportation system? Outside
of the city of Cottonwood, which manages and runs the entire Cat and Lynx system, we also have Clarkdale, the town of Clarkdale, the city of Sedona, and Yavapai County are all stakeholders because of the people that we serve using the buses. I also like to think that our passengers, the community in general, are also stakeholders, and encourage them to contact us if they have questions about the service at all. They have problems with the service, any reason at all. I'm constantly trying to keep in touch with all our stakeholders in order to ensure that our service provides the for the needs of the community,
Right.
as well as provide good input and reliability for our stakeholders.
Well, I think that that's the thing is the only way you can better a system is if you obtain a critique of your system, or in the context of having positive critical aspects from from the outside, and especially from those stakeholders who are the public users, as our riders. Our ridership needs to express that. And it is one of those things. It's something we try to better ourselves always. With that, we're gonna come back here in just about 1 minute. We'll take a break here with Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood, and we'll talk to Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager with the City of Cottonwood, a little bit more. Services program, and they administrate the grant program for all of the cities and towns throughout the state of Arizona. One of the things that they do is provide a large portion of the funding for our transportation systems. Wanted to go a little bit back in history here as we discuss things, and we'll get into a little bit more as how the loss of some of the funding has really affected us in the dynamics of providing transportation services and a functional system service within our community. But first off, I was going through information today, and I happened to come across Leisure Times, which is what our Parks and Recreation Department within Community Services provides. And I found articles all the way back into 1990, 92, 94. These are 96 and 98, 1998. And these were community information. And as you can see here, there's this was actually 2000, I think, or 2001. But it talks about a dial-a-ride. And you were talking about dial-a-ride service hours. And this is Cottonwood Area Transit Service. And we had the CATS program, the Cottonwood Area Transit System. And they took the program from Cottonwood to Clarkdale, Bridgeport, and the Verde Villages. The dial-a-ride service hours were Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Fares were $1.50 one way within Cottonwood city limits, and $2 one way outside of the Cottonwood city limits. And there was also a 10-trip punch pass, and there was a new catch-a-ride service, and which rather was interesting, which is it was a deviated fixed route service. So there was a deviated fixed route within the catch-a-ride. So I went back and I was really amazed at this, that we've actually been providing transportation services through Cottonwood Area Transit to our community since the late 1980s, when CAT started with a little old purple van that our previous city manager, Brian Mickelson, had a lot to do with as the community development director. And so he was instrumental in a lot by contacting the Arizona Department of Transportation. It was really quite an interesting foresightedness on the behalf of our then city manager, Brian Mickelson. By the time we actually reached into the 2004-05, we were still running a deviated fixed route service. We were also running a demand service. We were trying to get more away from demand service. And so by 2009 and 10, actually 2008, 9, and 10, Northern Arizona Intergovernmental Public Transportation Authority, NAPTA, out of Flagstaff, was also interested in our transportation system because we ran such a good transportation program for transit inside our community. By 2009-10, they had provided information to our city council. Council had authorized NAPTA to take over the system. They ran the system for approximately 1 year, and the city decided that they wanted to take the system back over by 2011. The fixed route system was more in place at that point in time, by the time the city took the system back over. Taxi voucher programs were just starting up. They were kind of a test and a trial program that we saw within our community through NAPTA. Now that system, like you had indicated, Bruce, has been kind of handed off from NACOG as well as the ADOT transportation program have now gone more towards the Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition, and they're trying to provide this program, get it started within our communities, make it more functional as a functional aspect of transportation within our communities. So we're kind of deviating even more so, but in a positive way. We are definitely trying to get our fixed route services going. By 2011, we had seen the Verde Lynx coming on board also with the city of Sedona, and that was one thing that was rather interesting to watch. Can you tell us what just kind of about the system, because the Verde Lynx is now attached into the Cottonwood Area Transit Program, and everybody meets right out in front of the library, I think, in what we call is a transportation hub. It's kind of a transfer facility, if you will, where the Verde Lynx comes in and tries to tie in somewhat with our Cottonwood Area Transit, but not completely. And we're looking at some of those changes. Can you identify some of those changes that we're looking at?
Sure. One of the things that I took a look at when I first got here is how do people move around the Verde Valley? How do they move around Cottonwood? And the one of the interesting aspects that I found is that a lot of people use the Verde Lynx as a commuter service. They live here in Cottonwood, but they work over in Sedona. And so I took a look at that, and I've been trying to formulate ways of how we can better utilize both pieces of the CAT service and get people to and from Sedona in such a way that it ties in better with what we're doing here in Cottonwood with the CAT. CAT currently has 3 routes. Well, I call it 3 routes, but it's actually 2 routes within Cottonwood, Clarkdale, the Verde Villages, and a little bit into Bridgeport. We also have the ADA service, which is for folks that are physically or mentally disabled in some way, and they can hop a ride on that. It's a curb-to-curb service where we actually go to their driveway and pick them up, take them to whatever they need to go to. Most of those are for medical visits, physical therapy, doctor's visits, and that sort of thing. But we also take people to the stores, primarily Fry's and Safeway. And of course, there's always the various and sundry beauty appointments and that sort of thing.
Right.
We have a lot of people. Well, we have a lot of our ladies. That is a primary function for
Sure.
taking the CAT bus. The Lynx, we run 8 trips to and from Sedona every day, 7 days a week, and it does provide that link to the all the resorts and the various tourist attractions that are in Sedona. And we do occasionally get tourists that like to see what's going on over here. So we're trying to make that more available. This fall we're looking to add a second bus to make 2 runs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, to better enable the people that live here in Cottonwood to get to and from work. We're also hoping that along the way we'll catch a few people that want to come back to Cottonwood to visit and spend time in our old town and see all the new things we have there.
That's true. Now with the inclusion of the Verde Lynx into our program, especially over the last 3 years, we've seen an explosion of people utilizing for ridership purposes the Verde Lynx. Can you explain that also? Because you were just indicating that we've been kind of doing some shadow bus right. detail work where we're seeing so many people riding the bus to Sedona. Explain that to our viewers here.
What we saw, especially last fall and again this spring, is that we have exceeded our capacity in our current buses to the point where we have upwards of 5 to 10 people every trip, either standing for the journey across to Sedona, or I hate to say it, sitting on the floor. So that's one of the factors that we're looking at as far as obtaining 2 buses to continue the Lynx service. I'm looking at 33 passenger buses to add the extra 12 seats that we currently lack in our buses now. I think that's going to make a difference. We've been averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 riders a month on the Lynx. And our little buses are 23 passenger buses. So we're pushing a lot of people to and fro as best we can right now.
Well, and that's the thing, is we want to make the system serviceable, but we also want to make it as safe as possible to our ridership, and that's one of the things that's definitely part of the state's concern as well as our concern. And so hopefully we'll see an increase into our fleet in the next 6 to 7 months. With those new buses, we'll talk a little bit more maybe about those and fuel and scenarios here in just a minute as we take another break here. My name is Richard Faust. I'm your host today for Inside Cottonwood, and with us Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager. Thank you for being with us today. We'll be right back.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood for our final segment on transportation in the Verde Valley and Cottonwood, Arizona. I'm Richard Faust, your host today, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood, and with me is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for the City of Cottonwood. Bruce, we were talking about bus units and the purchase of probably 2 buses within the next probably 6 to 7 months. Now, buses are not inexpensive. They're very expensive. And from what my understanding is they can go anywhere from $120,000 to $230,000 each, depending on the size, variation, what you want, you can get. And so, I mean, the cost, we're looking at a high cost, and who pays for that?
Well, again, it's a part of the grant process that we have with ADOT. Part of the grant is split up into 3 sections, basically: administrative costs, which tend to cover administrative costs, things like managers and dispatchers and that sort of thing fall under the administrative costs. Operations, which includes everything from drivers to buses to who knows, fuels, everything else that's involved in keeping the wheels moving in the right direction. And then there's capital projects. Capital are large purchases, whether it be facilities, which we don't need, but buses are also considered capital purchases because of the cost involved.
Right.
The base units, like the new buses that I'm looking at, the base units by themselves without doing anything to them are about $72,000.
Okay.
Then you start adding the body on the chassis, and then all the seating and safety equipment and everything else that's involved. And it's going to run close to about $160,000 to get one of the new buses that we're looking at. Fortunately, the grant that we have is going to pay for 90% of that.
That's good. Yes.
So between the stakeholders, and in this case it's going to be primarily between the City of Cottonwood and the City of Sedona.
That's correct.
Are going to have to come up with the extra 10%,
10% of the cash
on that to finish paying for the buses. But it's a very good deal that we're getting from the grant, plus I'm able to what they call piggyback onto somebody else's RFP,
right?
Which means I don't have to do all the 85 pages of paperwork.
That's good. So this request for proposal could even be somebody clear across in a different state, according to the Federal Transportation Administration.
Well,
the guidelines.
They actually came down with a new ruling, and I had originally set this up to go on a Minnesota purchase
right.
because they had gazillions of buses available. But the FTA said, nope, can't do that.
Okay.
So as long as it's within the state, and we have a number of large transit organizations in the state. The one I'm looking at right now is Valley Metro in Phoenix. So they buy buses a lot. So I'm able to use their purchasing power, if you will, to get our buses.
That's a good way to do it. Now, I think technology is advancing with both fuels and everything, especially with transportation, and that probably will be for a different time as we talk about fuel and fuel use and things, but we'll be looking at probably diesel systems instead of our gas systems, and so we'll be moving in that direction also. But talk to us a little bit about technology. I mean, you know, I've got my trusty cell phone here, and this is a smartphone, and things are happening here dramatically that are going to affect transportation into the future. Can you take a couple of minutes and talk to us a little bit about how that will affect the future of transportation?
There are a lot of exciting things happening in technology. With the coming of smartphones, with notepads and tablets and things like that, we can basically put all our route schedules, all the stops, all the timing and everything on an application, and that can be then pushed to anybody that has a smartphone or a tablet or whatever they've got, and they can see where our routes are. With putting tablets in the buses, that gives us location information. So you can pull up the application, take a look and say, oh, that bus will be here in 2 minutes. So you'll always know where our buses are in any given point during the day. And it's really fun to actually look at the application. We had it in Savannah, we had it in St. Paul, and you can pull up a website and you can see where all the buses are and just watch them going around the map. So
it's incredible.
It's a lot of fun. The best thing that I'm going to use the tablets for that we just purchased is in our paratransit buses. It will get rid of the paperwork that our drivers have to futz with when they're out there trying to figure out who their next pickup is. They'll be able to just look at the screen, tap it, and off they go. It's going to make changes to those manifests a lot easier. We'll be able to do it in the office, and again, the application will push it out to the tablets. And the drivers will have real-time information, and we won't get as confused as we sometimes do.
It'll be interesting because technology is going to advance even more, but it is very costly. And talking about cost, I know one of the things that we really took a hit on back in 2011 was the local transportation assistance funding, which was funded by state taxpayers. And it was kind of a fund that was authorized by the state, and it was from taxes, and it provided definitely a funding avenue. And with that loss, the state absorbed all of the LTAF-2 funding, local transportation assistance funding, along with highway user revenue funds. And so all of those funds accounted for over $100,000, which was normally dumped into our system, is now gone. So therefore, we lost one of our routes, which you had indicated we originally had 3. We're kind of down to a 2.5. We're trying to gear back up again. Right. And can you take just a moment here and talk about, you know, the plans with the grant and the new CAT route for the Cottonwood area transit, and then changes to the Blue Line route, and what will that entail?
Basically, I'll take the Blue Line route first because that's easier. It's something I've been looking at very closely over the last couple of weeks. Basically, what we have to do because of the loss of funding is change the way we operate the Blue Line. I took a look at all the options that I could see, and the easiest solution was to take the middle part of the Blue Line, the runs from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and we're going to do something else with that time frame. The first 2 runs in the morning, the 7 and 8 o'clock runs, are going to be the same. They'll go out through Western and Del Rio and that part of the Blue Line route and come up like it normally does. At 9 o'clock, we have a change, and we're tentatively calling it the yellow line,
Right.
because I didn't have any other color in mind at the time. And what that will do is go out as far as Goddard Road, the Verde Valley Manor, and then come back and utilize part of the old circulator route by coming up Fur to Camino del Rio.
Camino Real.
Yeah, that one.
Right.
Camino Real, and then to Elm, and then to 12th Street. So we'll be picking up some of the stops that have been dormant since the end of the circulator route. That'll make the folks at Christian Care happy, because
Yes.
we'll be stopping back there again. And I think it's going to help get people moving around in a little different parts of the city again. And that, coupled with the changes to the red and the addition of a new route,
Right.
there shouldn't be too many places in Cottonwood that you won't be able to get.
Right, and I think that those are some of the essential points that we wanted to make sure that we bring out. We'll be maybe, and I think that this is probably something we have planned here is the grant time frame goes all the way till September 30th, and a new grant time starts on October 1st, matching the federal cycle for their budget. And so what I'll probably do is have you come back on board again, and maybe in November sometime, and we'll talk about how this new yellow route system, in coordination with the blue and the red, how it's all working in conjunction to provide a more efficient service, which is, again, what our main reason is providing efficiency of service, providing transportation services to our public, and ensuring that in the safest method we possibly can. At this point, we'll go ahead and kind of shut things down on our end here, but I appreciate you being here, Bruce, because you're a font of knowledge as it pertains to transportation and transit issues, and definitely technology as we start to advance and move forward with a lot of technology, and our bus units as we start to look at purchasing those here in the next 4 to 5 months and moving forward with that. But again, thank you very much for joining us here today. Thank you for being with us here on Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood, with Bruce Morrow, our Transportation Manager. And if you would like to contact him, you can do so at 928-634, and that is 2272?
2287.
2287. All right, that's 634-2287.
Or cats.
Or cats. There you go. And you can go online also. So thank you again for being with us today.